Well, when I was really super young, maybe like Phelan's age, I really loved when we had a lot of rains in the islands. And that meant that I can just go fishing. But I didn't go fishing like in the sea or in the river or anything like that. My fishing took place right outside of my house, right where there was a big drain that carried the water along the way so it wouldn't get all clogged up in front of your home. And I was not wearing pants or anything like that. I probably had on a skirt, and I would go get one of those tin cans, you know, the ones that maybe have beans in it or something. I would clean it out, and I'd poke some holes with a nail at the bottom, just enough so that I could go out and catch fish. So that was my fishing gear, unlike having those long poles and you carry a bait and, you know, all of those wonderful things. So here I am, I'm all excited, it's all sunny, it's nice, the water has risen pretty high, and I'm out there right by the driveway with my butt up and everything, and I'm just, my dress all up, and I'm just fishing with my tin can. And many times I was successful. I didn't catch really big fish, large fish, as was described this morning in the Bible, in the story, but I got some small ones. But then there were times it seems like the fish just had a scent of my smell or my presence or something. And when I'm there, I'm not getting any fish. It seemed like they just swam away. They went the other way. And no matter how much I scooped down and tried to get this fish, I would come up short. And that was sometimes my most disappointment time. I just felt like a failure. I just felt like there was something probably I needed to do. Of course, I didn't know about the big fishing pole and all of those things. So to fast forward, I moved to America, and then I saw when people would take up fishing as a recreation, and they would go into the stores and buy these fancy things, poles, and they had to have these baits and whatever. Well, you know, this morning in the gospel, we hear about Jesus and his disciples. They are in the sea getting ready to do some fishing. Just how I felt as a failure that time, I suppose I heard before that by my spiritual director, when I had told her the story, she said to me, you know, if you're going to be a minister, if you're going to be preaching God's words, if you're going to be helping people, you better get used to failure, because it comes with the territory. So I say that to all of you today who are aspiring to go into the ministry or is there already, and all of you are ministers of the gospel. You all do the work of Christ. You all have jobs. You teach in school and different things. All of you I know have experienced some kind of failure or some kind of shortcoming. So back to the story, we're told that the disciples now, they are out at night fishing. And why? Because their Lord had just been killed, crucified, and now they're trying to figure, okay, where are we going to go next? We don't have a leader. We're leaderless. But they're out there trying to fish, and nothing. They're coming up short. They're feeling confused, disappointed, a sense of failure. And up comes Jesus along the way and tells them to cast the net. And what happens? All of a sudden, they've got all this fish. Unlike me, they came up with very large fish. And then the next part, we know that the next morning it's like this, and they go to the beach, probably Myrtle Beach or something like that, and they sit down and they're having a beautiful meal. And Jesus has asked them to bring the fish along so they can have a meal together, a sense of community. They don't really recognize him, but they recognize him, but they're not telling him anything. They're still in a state of shock. They're still confused. Breakfast is over, they've cleaned off the table, and now it becomes very personal. And this is where Jesus decides he's going to have a one-on-one, a come to Jesus with Peter. I give a little credit to Pastor Dawn this morning because we talked about this a little bit during the week. Jesus confronts Peter and he asks him 3 major questions. And one of them is, Peter, do you love me? And Peter responds, you know, yes, Lord, you know I love you. And he tells him to feed his lambs. And then he asks him again a second time. He says, Peter, do you love me? And Peter says, yes, Lord. And he tells him to feed his sheep. And then Jesus asks him one more time, Peter, do you love me? And of course we hear that Peter is hurt. And Peter says, yes, Lord, I love you. You know, in contrast, it's like Jesus was trying to tell him to make sure that he understood what it is love entailed. That love is not just filial love. It's not just a feeling, not just brotherly love. But it's more an agape kind of love. It is love that is unconditional. It's love for everyone in here, regardless of your age, regardless of your status, regardless of your title, regardless of what kind of failure you've experienced, any kind of frustration or any doubt, any sense of maybe isolation. The Lord is saying that I love you and I can forgive you and that we can go on and do a new thing. We could go on and do ministry still in spite of. You know, I've had a lot of failures. I don't know about all of you, because I've been around a little bit. I've had this my second career. I remember when I was studying to be a nurse. I got into my 3rd year. I was trying to work towards my bachelor's of science. And there was a course called, any nurses in here? I had to take health assessment. It's called physical education, and you have to really understand all the biology from head to toe. And I took that course, and you needed a 75 to pass, and I think I made like a 74. And that was really devastating. I felt like such a failure. I felt like it was the end of the world. Why did I feel that way? Because I felt that, gosh, how could I have come up so short? How come I couldn't have passed this after I had studied so much? And I felt really bad because all of a sudden I would have to wait another year to take the course over, and my whole class that was graduating would be ahead of me, and I now would be back with a new group. So I went ahead and I took it again, and the second time I'm struggling. I go up to the teacher, and there's everyone just like this, and I said to her, gosh, I'm really struggling. And she just belted out, not again, Alicia. And I was like, I didn't expect you to tell the whole world to broadcast. Well, I panicked. I walked out of that college, and I went on to Salem State, where they accepted me, and I went ahead and I passed my course, and I sailed on, and I got my degree, and I went on to be this fabulous nurse and caring for people. So I'm saying to you this morning that in this Easter, 50 great days of Easter, which is Eastertide, which is time of joy, where we stand when we go to receive communion. It's not a time of penitence. I'm sorry to tell you this morning that you may, in spite of Eastertide, you're going to be experiencing some scary moments. You're going to be experiencing some frustrations and some disappointments. You're going to be, you see the state of the world. Every time we put on the television, we have 2 students die during the week, a senseless death. We have a wonderful human being, Rachel Evans, at 37 years old, died of a virus. When I came here on February 17, the book study club that meets on Wednesdays at 10 o'clock, they were reading one of her books, Sunday, Searching for Sunday. That was the first time I've heard of Rachel. What a loss, in spite of the resurrection, in spite of the Lord standing right in front of us and being present and letting us know that he cares about us and that he's with us no matter what. We're going to still have trials and tribulations. But the Lord can still use us. This morning there is good news. Because you see, even though we love Jesus, we do, don't we? Even though we do, there are times we're going to disappoint ourselves, and there are times we're going to disappoint our Lord. But the Lord will still come out and seek us even when we feel like a failure, even though when we have goals and aspirations, and in our ministry sometimes things doesn't work out how we want it. Even though you're in a time of transition, the Lord is still with you and still commands you to follow him. He still commands you to do the work of ministry. You can shrug your shoulders. You can want to go back to fishing your old ways. You can do all of those things. But the Lord doesn't want you to stay where you are. The Lord wants you to go on and do great things and dream big dreams and hope and stay alive and stay present, because God is with you regardless. We see that in Peter. Peter could have decided to stay right where he was, where he denied Jesus 3 times and just sob and stay there. But Peter was still given a second chance. And Peter went on to be a martyr. He went on to be this great witness for Christ. And you too can be used if you allow yourself to be open, if you allow yourself to rest in the arms of our Lord. You too have a bright future. Jesus calls us this morning to not stay in our old patterns, in our old ways, but the resurrected Jesus in this time of joy, in spite of the trials and tribulations we may experience, in spite of what the psalmist says, that we may weep for a night. We have to remember that joy will come at some point. The Lord doesn't leave us in that state. There is going to be brightness. There's going to be God's love. There's going to be God's presence. So I say to you, stay faithful, stay steadfast, in spite of whatever it is you may be going through. Just like me, I was feeling like a failure at times. I didn't pass that exam, but the Lord was with me in spite of, and I went on until able to do great things. And here I am standing before you today as a witness, as a testimony. He says to all of you to follow me. And all you have to do is just stay faithful, stay steadfast. God could use you even with a tin can that you put holes in. Even though you may not have that fancy rod and the bait and all of the trimmings and so on, you can still catch fish for God. You can still reach souls and tell them about God's love. Personal invitation that he extended to Peter is the same personal invitation that you and I, as his disciple, can extend to others as well, and tell them about God's love. Tell them that God can use ordinary people to do extraordinary things, and that God will always seek us out. And if we would go to him and ask for his forgiveness, God will always be there to put his loving arms around us with unconditional love. Follow me.